Inside, the lights are low. This isn't your typical lounge. This is where the forgotten tales gather, where the shadows have their say. We'll talk of monsters in the woods, of killers with a motive and lights in the sky, and ghosts in the attic. Come into the waiting room, please.
Tonight we got a special guest. I love comic books. I used to collect comic books since I was a little kid. And one of the things, I had a big collection as a little boy of comic books. And I got to tell you this story, but my mother just got tired of it. She went into my room, she saw all these comic books, and she says, "This weekend, if you don't have those comic books gone, I'm throwing them away." I said, "Oh my God." And so she took off with dad, left me with my big brother. My big brother left the house. I took all those comic books and went into the crawl space of my house in Monterey and put them off in a corner, and they're probably still there.
Oh boy.
I was just a little boy, and I was the only thing that could fit into that crawl space. So, yeah, that's what I remember about comics. But anyway, um, I'll let you know who we are. I'll let Phil go ahead and start first. Introduce yourself, a little bio.
Hey, Peter. My name is Phil DeSaro. I've been doing the podcast with Paul for, I guess, a little over, has it been over a year? Has it been 2 years?
Yeah,
it's been a little bit.
Yeah.
Documentary filmmaker. Got 2 documentaries under my belt, 2 books under my belt. Former Marine. Still not retired yet, although I would really like to be. And yeah, that's about it. Rescue a lot of animals in my spare time. Then I'll pass it back to Paul. Or you already know what Paul does. Everything.
Peter, I think Peter doesn't know a couple things. So, in the comic book world, I was a letter hack. If you look at the Wikipedia letter hack, I'm up there with George R. Martin, who wrote A Song of Ice and Fire and became Game of Thrones. He was a letter hack too. I wrote over 1,000 letters and had them published. I'm now an author of something like 85 books, and I write for some magazines and just stuff on the paranormal. I'm a paranormal investigator and a podcaster. I did some help with some stories for Hellboy, and I did some documentaries and stuff. So that's who I am. And you are Peter Retro, and let me see if I can get this last name right. Palmiotti.
Palmiotti.
Oh, okay. And you're a comic book writer and artist. And I've seen some of the comic books on your Facebook page. Though that's your artwork, because it's incredible.
Well, I mean, 90% of what I've done in the comic industry is inking. So I work, for Marvel, DC, Image, Valiant, and just a slew of independent companies, small companies, self-publishers, and all of that. But I've dabbled in everything, and this year is kind of crazy. I got like 10 different projects I got to get done. Hopefully get done. And then I'm going to be shifting into focusing on my own book, which is Retro, which is why that's my middle name. It's a character I created in my late teens. It was mostly just visually, just a superhero. But I developed him over the years and hope to get the first issue of that out this year. But like right now I got a graphic novel that mostly focused on called Faction Paradox. It was originally a series through Image. I think it was 2003, but it didn't get the numbers. and it was a different writer back then. Another writer approached me a couple of years ago and saw the property, read the book, was really interested in giving his take on it. And now it's going to be a complete book, but it's a little bit choose your own adventure as far as where you go at the end. Um, and yeah, so that's like 130 pages. I got to ink on that. It'll be 150 pages total. The original artist was Cal Fury, but we got another artist now. But I'm, essentially the inking the whole thing. I got like, just a lot of projects. It's with the world happenings, and I had my ex passed 4 years ago.
I'm sorry.
It's been a rocky road. And so now I'm just like, I have to keep my head down this year and just get a lot of work done.
Now, do you do any penciling or just
I
inking?
Yeah, I got one project called Icebox. I'm working with a writer. We're co-writing, co-creating it. It's a cyberpunk, mostly a TNA book. Um, but that will be me penciling and inking myself. And that will probably be the first real book out there with just me on art. I've done little things. I've done, covers and pinups and just drawings here and there and whatnot. But this will be, the first real book. Will be crowdfunding that book later this year. And another, like a one shot through another company, I'll be penciling, inking, and coloring. Coloring is something new I'm getting into. I'll be doing it with my iPad and Procreate. But yeah, it's just, like I'm all over the place. It's like mostly just to give kind of a perspective, like, I was with DC back in 93, 94. I did like ink like the 24 issues of Aquaman over Jim Calfury back when Peter David was writing it. That's mostly what I'm known for, because that was like my longest run of anything. I I've always just been happy to be busy and be working. So I'm like, I don't even have a list of what I've worked on, but a couple of hundred books out there. um, you
You
know,
work you work for DC and Image at one point in time, or
well, DC was strictly Aquaman. After Aquaman, they always roll in a new team. Um, so I knew a bunch of the others, but nobody had anything. It's like books were limited back when, not, they weren't releasing 60, 90 books or whatever a month. So they already had their team set. So they didn't have any openings for me. So from DC, I jumped over to Marvel, and Marvel was going insane. I think they had like 10 to 15 X-Men books at the time. And I got a lot of X-Men work. I worked on Uncanny X-Men, Cable, Gambit, Alpha Flight, Wolverine, whatever else they were releasing at the time. But what I did was a lot of, here's 2 pages of this, here's 3 pages of that. Everything was overnight. Everything was rush. I'm not necessarily a fast inker. That's not what I'm known for. It's more about quality for me. Um, but that they were just churning out books, and they had teams of people working on like titles. Um, one of the few credits I got in a book in an X-Men book was Uncanny X-Men 360, where they actually put my name in the credits. Um, but most of the time they didn't list everybody that worked on each book because there was so many people involved. Um, but yeah, I worked, so I worked for 3 years at DC working on Aquaman, and then I went over to Marvel and worked for them, give or take, for like 4 years. I also did some Iron Man. There was a Sentry one shot that I inked. That's a character from ForceWorks, and some other things. Um,
What years did you work at Marvel?
so uh, like 95 to 99, something like that.
All right.
So yeah, just before 2000.
Before the movies really started getting going,
Yeah, yeah.
which is really
But
when they were at their best. I think, anyway. Good stuff was.
they were going through changes, and like the whole bankruptcy. I forget. Continuity is like everything is a blur because I'm just like churning out my own work, and um, but it was great working for them. It's really like, I don't know if you guys know, but like I have a brother also in the industry. He's a year and a half older than me. I have three older brothers. He's the next one up. He's Jimmy Palmiotti. Jimmy Palmiotti, like I've done hundreds of books. He's done thousands of books. Like he's done thousands of books as an inker, and now he's mostly writing. He's doing some coloring. He's doing some inking. But he's the high end of the industry. I'm the starving artist. Um, but and his wife is Amanda Connor. You might have heard of her.
Heard of
Uh,
her. Yes, yes.
yeah. So I'm just happy to be working, and it's like I love comics. We grew up on comics. Me and my brother had a lot of similar interests. Whatever I wasn't buying, he was buying, and we just borrow each other's books and read everything. Um, I was mostly a Marvel fan, but I read a lot of DC. I read a lot of independence. I read heavy metal. I read, into all that. Um, but for me, writing is also something relatively new. Um, it's like when I joined the industry, I knew from the get-go that I wasn't a great inker. That's how I broke in. Um, but I worked my ass off the first 3 or 4 years, and got much, much better. Writing is the same way. It's like I know I could write. I've talked with writers on, while I was on books, and communicated my thoughts on, where the series should be headed, or give voice my opinion. It's always a collaborative effort. Um, but I just, yeah. So I just love comics, and I pretty much, I started in 1991, pretty much been working almost constantly. Like I said, I'm working for a lot of small people now, or just unknown names or whatever. But I got too much work. and just want to get a lot done this year, so going forward I could work on my own book. And conventions is something I've done throughout the years, but I haven't done them in recent years. Hope to get a lot done this year, and maybe back into it next year.
Has the process changed a lot over the years? from as far as
everything.
the, I was just wondering because like back in the day, I imagine it being a lot more, ink and then, actually having your hands on the product and having to mail it back to the person. With the digital age, is that everything now on a computer?
Most of what I do is ink over digital pen, well, printed pages. Like, and let's see, and how I could find. So, so here's something I'm working on. So, stacks of work everywhere. Um, so okay, so yeah, I get a digital file and print it out. I print it out in red. Lots of people do blue line. I like doing red line. It's just visually better for me. So I print out the pencils, and then I still ink traditionally. So this is actually my art. This is a pen up I did for a book. Um, so I still use a brush, a quill, technical pens, roofitographs. Um, I coloring I'm going to do digitally because that's just easiest. Um, but yeah, everything's changed because of computers and whatnot. Back in the 90s, um, even when I was working from home in DC, they wanted, to mail me pages and for me to mail them pages. Although, I was living in Brooklyn at the time. I grew up in New York. I was born and bred in Brooklyn. Um, uh, and I'd go into the city a lot. I just take the train in. It was an hour in, hour back, whatever. But that's how, I did a lot of face to face with editors and met a lot of artists and writers in the hallways and whatnot. Um, but yeah, nowadays it's like, I'm out in Kentucky, in a small town. Lots of people consider it the boonies. Um, I just have internet and get a file and print it out. I have a Epson printer scanner. I just print it out on my printer here and ink a page and just scan it and send it out and get paid almost immediately.
So like when you were with Marvel, for example, you were in Marvel's office in New York then?
Yeah, yeah. So I go up to the office a lot. Even for my brother, I drop off pages for him a lot of the times just to get up there. Um, show my face, talk with the people. Hey, you got any work? A lot of my earliest work there was before Aquaman. I did some Marvel Comics Presents. I did some Punisher inks, just like pages here, pages
Yeah,
there.
very cool.
A Punisher annual, I did some pages on. Um, but yeah, I unless it was like, they insisted on it, I would go into the office myself, um, and just drop off pages and, hey, you got anything else?
And
Um,
did Marvel give you any credit for the inking? I mean, like if I open up the comic book, will I see your name on there?
yeah, yeah. I said like specifically with the X-Men office, I did a lot of, 2 pages, 3 pages here and there, and only got one credit. But I did the Century one shot I got credit on. I inked 2 half issues of Iron Man. I got credit on that. Um, Both me and my brother inked Spider-Man 2099, where they gave me credit as background inker on that one. um, I don't even remember half the stuff I've done throughout the years, but that was something like that came up recently. A friend of mine sent me a picture of the credits page of Spider-Man 29, And it's like, oh yeah, I guess I did work on that title. Um,
Well, that's cool. When I think of Marvel and the inkers and the pencilers and the writers that were involved with Marvel comic books, I think of the Marvel bullpen. And so actually you're part of the Marvel bullpen.
well, I'll give you my origin story because lots of people find that interesting. So my brother was already, working on comics and working with some people. A friend of his was Mark Texiera. Mark was working on Ghost Rider back in the day, and I had like from even though I went to art school, I went to art and design in Manhattan. I went to New York Techno College in Brooklyn. With high school, it was cartooning and animation I took up, and with college, it was a 4 year college. I only did 2 years, but that was advertising art. But I don't care what titles they give you; they just throw a bunch of art courses at you. Um, it wasn't very specified, like. But anyway, so after college, I did 10 years of, I was a messenger. Eventually, I ran a mailroom. And he called me up one day and he's like, hey, my friend Mark, he's got to finish an issue of Ghost Rider over the weekend. He's going to be up at Marvel tonight. You want to come and, just fill in some blacks and help out? And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds like fun. And he'll throw you a couple of bucks. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And you know, I thought about doing art for a living on and off like all my life before that. But it was too precious a thing to me to actually consider it as a job. Um, but I went up to essentially we worked in the Malwa Pope Band where, this is years ago, there was no security, there was nobody that cared or anything. Um, it was me, my brother, this guy Ken Branch, and Mark Texier, and we were all tossing ghostwriter pages around. I was filling in black. Ken was inking backgrounds. My brother was inking figures, and Tex was drinking coffee, eating donuts, and just penciling pages. Um, it was pretty insane, and 10 minutes in the mobile bullpen, just looking around the offices, seeing all the editorial offices, being in the bullpen, seeing all the tables and all the chaos there. I made the decision. Like, I didn't know what I was doing with my life until that moment. And I was like, I want to be in comics. And I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. I'll get better. I'll, I'll make a living at this. Um, and yeah, it really changed my life. And actually, like when I was working at Marvel years later on a lot of X-Men pages, a couple of times they asked me to work actually in the bullpen to get them done right away. And one day while I was working on whatever a Wolverine page or something, I hear somebody giving a tour around the mobile offices, and it was Spider-Man, and there was a line of people behind it.
Well,
It was pretty funny.
did you have a chance to meet Stan Lee?
I've seen him a lot. I'm the kind of person I don't need to talk with people all the time. I was born shy, but a lot of artists, a lot of writers I have talked to, but not everybody. I of course idolize Stan. I love his little bullpen in the comics. I read every single one I saw. Um, I saw him a dozen times at least at conventions. Especially, I went to the New York conventions all the time. I remember one time they had him surrounded by stormtroopers, Star Wars stormtroopers.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
but I personally didn't say hello to him. I just didn't. I guess I just didn't want to ruin the image of him. you know,
Yeah.
even though I've heard plenty of times he was a nice guy. My brother, on the other hand, he hosted panels where Stan um was doing talks and whatnot. Later in his life, a year or two before he passed. Um, but I've met plenty of artists. I've met plenty I've idolized throughout the years. My biggest inking influence was Bernie Wrightson. I've met Bernie Wrightson, Mike Kaluta, so many people. It's always so great to meet them. I got to ink a couple of times. I got to ink Mike Raringo, and talk with him. Um, yeah, I could just go on. It's like one person I never saw at conventions that I loved his work was P. Craig Russell. Um, he did he did some work for one of those 9/11 books, comics that were made, that I also worked on. But and the guy who put it together was a friend of mine. He told me P. Craig Russell was coming over to his house. Would I want to meet him? I was like, yes, definitely. So I got to meet P. Craig Russell, and that was a blast. That was, like outside of chaos of a comic convention.
You mentioned just how you couldn't imagine getting paid for, professionally as to work in art just because it was so important to you. And I was just wondering, because I've always loved art, especially pop art, comics, skateboard decks, tattoo art, all of it is just, beautiful. Do you do anything, just on your own, whether it be canvas or, graffiti on the wall, airbrush, anything like that? Because I see like Frank Franzetta, I think, just sold one of his pieces for like $2 million. So, I mean, do you do anything just on your own besides the comics where you just have to pick up a pen and do something?
Yeah, it's like I try to draw every day, even if it's just sketching. Like a lot of times when I'm on the phone with somebody, either a video call or on my cell phone, I'm like sketching and whatnot. But I've done pieces. I'm trying to think. I just showed you this. I mean, this is specifically for a book that I did. Um, but I try to do things in between, um, one I want to be a better penciler, as well as, as good as I am an inker. I want to be a better penciler, because I'm pushing myself. Like the kind of the reason I got these penciling gigs is because I stepped outside of myself and like insisted, like I should be penciling this book. I know what you want, and I could show you that I know what I'm doing. Um, so um, that to me is stretching at the moment. I always envision, like, I don't think I'm going to retire, but when I do, I'll get into painting. It's because I've dabbled in painting. I've done watercolor throughout the years, in between things. Um, it's kind of like, you know, to take a break from doing comics to do art is not really a break per se, but uh, it's like I do so much want to paint, and I think, you know how popular like alternate covers on comic books are. I think I'm going to do for my series. I've already had a bunch of friends like, oh, I'll do you a cover. I'll do you a cover. I'll do you a cover. It's like, on the one hand, it's like, that's great. I want to ink everybody. You know, it's like part of the pleasure of inking is like to ink different artists and whatnot. Um, and I don't think I'll ever give up inking, even if my book becomes the number one book in the industry, which it won't, but if it does. Um, but I do want to do my own covers as well as paint one of the ultimate covers. So I'm thinking like, much like Steve Rude, for example, on Nexus does the acrylic painted covers. I think those are phenomenal. And it's like I would love to do that for my character and my book.
Hey, Peter, I went to the 1998 San Diego International Comic Con, and that's where I met Stan Lee. And nicest guy in the world. I had a newsletter called the People's Comic Book Newsletter, and we dedicated an issue to Stan Lee, and we gave it to him along with a plaque. And he looked at me and goes, "Oh, what is it that I did that deserved something like this?" And I'm going, "Oh yeah, you created everything, Spider-Man, everything." But I met some important people. I met Mike Mignola of Hellboy, and I consulted with him, and I gave him some story ideas, and he gave me credit for it. Jim Lee, Robert Kirkman of The Walking Dead, Ellen Moore, oh, uh, the the creator of Simpsons. I can't think of his name right now.
Macaroni.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I met him. Brian Pluto of Lady Death.
Right.
Joseph Michael Lisner of Dawn. And Brian and Joseph, incredible people. I mean, their artwork is just phenomenal. A guy who's an artist but very famous, and they always made fun of him, Rob Liefeld. And remember how you made Captain America with a chest out there?
Yeah. But I know everybody makes fun of Rob and it's deserved a little bit maybe sometimes, but I saw Rob at New York Comic Con years ago, and I went up to him and shook his hand. I was like, like everybody who's made an impact, artist, writer, whatever, colorist, they've earned my respect. This is making a comic takes a long time, and especially with independent comics, like part of the problem is you don't have the backing of a large corporation, you don't have the funding. Things have to be put on the shelf sometimes, and you have to wait. But hopefully things work out and you get the book done and it gets distributed well, and you get the audience, that want the book and all that. Now with crowdfunding and all that, it's a whole different thing. But I love every aspect of it. It's all hard work, and you gotta love it to put yourself through it.
I like that people still like to actually have a comic. I think it's one of the few things these days that people still, they don't want to read a comic on a phone. They don't want to read a comic on a computer. They actually want to hold a comic in their hand. Whereas music, nobody wants an album anymore. They don't want a CD anymore. They just want to hear it on their phone. Movies, nobody owns DVDs or VHS anymore. Nobody owns media anymore. Comic magazines, have gone by the wayside. Newspapers have gone out of business all over the country. But comic book fans still want their comics in their hand. They want to hold them. They want to have them. They want to own them. I totally respect that. That's, probably the best thing about it, I think.
It's definitely like everything's gone through so many changes. I mean, originally as a little kid, my father brought home like 3 or 4 New York newspapers at the time, and I would read every single comic strip from that. That's originally how I really got into reading comics. It was like the first comic books I saw were the local, barber who had a stack of magazines and a couple of comic books, Richard Rich and Archie and whatever,
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, Peter, hold
yeah.
that thought. You have like 2 minutes. Now everything's going to shut down, and then we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we're going to send you a second link to finish up this interview.
Okay, great.
But you're right, though. As a little boy, I went to the barber shop. There was always comics there, and I remember reading Herbie. That was that fat kid that was able to walk on the air.
Right.
You remember him? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I always read the Peanuts comics in the papers, the Peanuts and Lucy and Dagwood.
oh yeah,
and
yeah.
Archie's. But yeah, those the earliest ones. And then as a kid and a teenager, I became like a huge Ghost Rider, Silver Surfer fan, and then I got into to Wolverine, later on with like the Shiva series and all that stuff. And then when I went in the Marine Corps, I couldn't carry anything with me, so I kind of got away from comics for a bit there. And then those movies came out, and it was like an overdose for a while. It wasn't until it almost became like, was it Deadpool, the anti-comic book hero? When that came back, I didn't even want to see it at first, but then when I watched it, I have to admit it was hilarious. It was really great to see somebody kind of take the piss out of the whole thing, because it had been done so many times. The sense of the humor that went with it was awesome.
Yeah, it was well done for sure.
But yeah, we've got a little bit less than a minute, but like Paul said, we'll send you another link. Then we'll kick this thing back off.
No problem.
Peter, fantastic interview.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, and and a lot of comics are digital now. So yeah, and there's a lot of libraries that collect them. They scan the old ones and put them online, and they're forever.
Yep.
Okay, we got like 18 seconds. Better break, smoke them if you got them. I learned that in the Army.
I
Smoking lamp is lit.
Yeah. Okay. So, Peter, I got to do a little show and tell with you. I actually created a comic book myself called The Legendary Dark Silhouette. And we actually made an action figure out of it. If you
we could. No.
Yeah, so yeah, it was I only created one comic book, and it was such a pain in the ass doing it. I said, never again. I said, I mean, I write paranormal books now, but no comic books. Yeah, it's just too much trouble. When I went to that 1998 San Diego Comic-Con, I also, too, I forgot to tell you, I met Drew Hayes, who wrote Poison Elves, and he was such a cool dude. During that time when I was younger, I smoked cigarettes, and Drew would go like this. He goes, "Hey, Paul, hey, come on." He knew I read his comics and he published a lot of my letters, and he said, "Let's go have a cigarette." It was so cool. I mean, it was like, wow, this is Drew Hayes, And yeah, he passed away too. And then I met Todd McFarlane from Spawn, Eric Larson. I was pretty close with. He published a lot of my letters with Savage Dragon. And then Jim Valentino, he wrote Normal Man. And this is the little story I told you about the crawl space and hiding those comic books.
Right.
I told him that story, and he used that whole story. There's more to it. He used that whole story in one of his comic books, and he didn't give me any credit for it. I said, "Hey, Jim," I said, I told you that story, and I said you used it. It'd be nice to get some kind of credit for it." And so in this next comic book, he gave me credit.
There you go. That's why you can't solicit your stories to creators, because it would just like sink into them. It's like they'll think it's their idea.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I wasn't mad at him or anything like that. But I just like to get a little recognition.
Yeah. You want me to share
Yeah,
some artwork?
yes, yes, I would love to see it.
All right. I put in a request. Let's see. How's this work? Okay. Ba, ba, ba. Oh, I see. Okay. Here we go.
Holy cow!
So this is, you see Hostile Takeover, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the Spider-Man 2099. That Joe St. Pierre is the guy from Valiant that I met while I was working there. And he's a great guy, a great artist. And Jimmy was the inker, and somehow I was inking the backgrounds on that project. So that's my background inks. There you go. This, I'm not really a horror fan, but Alien was a big influence, and it's like I love that movie. This is my pencils and inks. This is probably my favorite piece I've ever done. I just love Alien, and I had a lot of fun doing that. And okay, so this is a page from Alpha Flight that I inked. This is okay. So, Valiant was bought and sold by so many different companies. Acclaim owned them at one point. This is early 2000s. And they just did a Turok video game, and they were going to do an Armorines video game. So they had me and Jim Calfury do a 4-issue Armorines series, and I inked all the covers to that. That's just one of them. That was a lot of fun. So you remember Wizard magazine from the 90s?
Oh, yes, yeah, Wizard. Okay. I had letters published in Wizard. Yeah.
There you go. They did a lot of verses. It was Marvel characters, DC characters, one versus the other. They also called it Last Man Standing. I inked a lot of those things. So that was probably my best gig, because it wasn't even, a regular comic page artwork is 11 by 17. These were smaller, but I got paid much more.
I remember Wizard, and I remember Combo. Yeah, Combo was a comic book magazine, along with a comic book price guide.
Comic book price guide. The Comics Journal was another favorite of mine.
Yeah.
The Comics Journal did interviews that lasted like, it took me a week to read an interview. So this was a small independent, actually a guy out in Canada did a book called Bruiser. The artist was Pierre Guerrero. If you know Why the Last Man was made into a series at DC, Pierre Guerrero was the artist on that. So I inked her before she was famous. But this cover, was penciled by my brother and inked by me. So this is pretty cool. We did a bunch of collaborations together. The coloring isn't so great, but
Well, that's fantastic.
yeah, that was fun. Yeah, it was a fun book. It was just like a black and white, very indie 90s book. Um,
Are you able to make it a little bit larger?
um, and let's see. Well, I can make it as large as you want. What do you want to see?
Uh, Gosh, I don't know. Just pick one.
Well, I don't know. Are you seeing, like, I'm really going close on the cover?
Oh,
Are you,
I see them all, but they're just
Yeah.
kind of small.
Yeah, can you
oh,
select each one individually?
well, I have I don't know how to do that. I thought you were seeing the individual ones I was showing.
Oh, no, we see everything.
You see everything. Um, I don't think there's a way.
Huh.
I would maybe if I don't wanna show something by
I got all
accident.
magnifying glass.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were able to see um yeah, I'm not sure how to do that in a Zoom.
Really? Well,
Uh,
we got. Well, you know, if you got the physical copy too, you can put it up to the camera.
uh, okay, let me tell you what. Okay, let me opt out of it. Um, okay, stop sharing. Okay. Let me grab something. See.
Okay, okay. I love a little game of show and tell.
Okay. Sorry that didn't work out. So, well, this is what I'm mostly known for. This is the puppy dog. It's
Oh, Aquaman.
yeah.
Okay.
So this cover I didn't ink, but this is an omnibus. This is like 1,500 pages, give or take.
Oh my God.
So they did
Yeah.
this is like 3 or 4 years ago, whatever it was. They did two Aquaman Peter David omnibuses, and this one has the miniseries, the series up until issue 49, and some odds and ends. So let's see. You look searching here, but bear with me. Tempest book in there. What is this? This one. Oh, this one. Okay. Well, it's maybe not the best cover, but you see that?
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, that's the Aquaman cover I ate. And also did the interior on that book. Um, uh, Green Lanterns, The Ray, Firestorm. Well, on the first page. Yeah, I like this. This was like a dream sequence or something, but they they had it like black and white.
Oh, okay. Now you did the inks to this?
Yes, I did the inks to this one.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's nice.
this is a heavy ass book.
Yeah. How many
Uh,
pages is that?
It's like 1,500, something give or take.
100.
Yeah,
Holy.
that's
Awesome. Did you have that book made up yourself? Like how'd you have that done?
um. Well, I think because of the Aquaman movie, and also because Peter David, famous writer, um, they decided to do a couple of omnibuses,
Oh,
and you know, back in the '90s, we signed a contract that we get paid for the individual issues and nothing more. Well, they emailed me one day and say we're gonna ignore those contracts and write you a new one, so you get royalties on what's printed now. So
no.
I got it was a couple hundred or whatever it was. Um, yeah, this is hey, this cover, which has Aquaman and his mom.
Wow, awesome. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
but 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 yeah, so like like um there was an original art team to this Aquaman series, but the artist was kind of slow, and also Peter David was writing. He was writing comics. He was writing novels. He was writing for TV, so he wasn't always on time with his schedule. Um, There's just some random pages ain't.
Wow. You did all the inking on this.
Yeah, it's like I'll try to find something really cool. I mean,
It's all cool. I
yeah,
mean,
it's all great stuff.
yeah. You make me want to go back.
Here's a double page spread of Aquaman and Swamp Thing. This is like when they were going. I think whoever was writing Swamp Thing, like in the green. It was, I don't know, it was some like mystical thing going on storyline wise, and Aquaman got caught up in it or something.
From Man and Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But yeah, it was a ton of work. It was like, it's like I just love painting and stuff. It's like
Wow. That's amazing. Amazing. And I can't believe how thick that book is. How much a book like that costs?
I mean, it was listed, I think, for 180. You could find it cheaper.
That's too cheap.
Hey, welcome.
$180. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think the list price was 180, but you can find it cheaper online. And they sent me 3 copies. I sold one. I still have one if somebody wants it. But yeah, this is like, you'd be reading this for a long, long time.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, the only book that I know that expensive is City of Blood, the things that happen in Sacramento. It's by a guy named Phil D. Acero.
Yeah, you know how expensive ink is these days.
Yeah, but that's hard work. It can cost more than that, But
Phil, how much is your book? That one.
I think it's down to like $6, something like that.
Okay, 6. Okay.
It's
Yeah,
it's been a while since I looked at the price. I don't sell a lot of them.
Yeah, my books.
it's impressive.
Yeah, my books cost anywhere from $8 to $12.
Yeah. There's
Nice.
some more pages.
Oh man.
And
Nice.
Aqualad and whatever his name is now. And
Wow.
That's incredible.
Wow.
it was a lot of work, but Cal Fury, he's a fantastic artist and he's super tight. And our phone bill, well, my phone bill, because we go over every page, every panel. Like because this was my first real break. and I would be like, "What do you want? What do you want me to do?" You know, it was just subtlety of line away and all this. You know, he had like a ton of detail in his work, and it was a
Yeah,
blast.
people don't realize the back and forth that goes into just one page, let
Yeah,
alone all that. Oh my God.
I got to ink my favorite superhero. Well, DC superhero, which was Superman. Unfortunately, it was during the red blue era.
That's
Uh,
that is incredible.
The colors are
uh-oh.
incredible.
Superman, damn. That's the pinnacle.
But
That is the
it was
pinnacle.
still fun. It was still fun.
Zandine, you missed out. He worked with Marvel too, and he was part of the Marvel bullpen.
Man, I may have missed out, but I'm looking at this and it's like just top rate. So it's like I don't even know, what we're dealing with here. It's like, but it's just ultra. Hey, so, you know what? We had a guest, Peter, that was really he was really deep and enthralled with Green Lantern, which I like him as well. Where are you at with, like, say a character like that when you're drawing his powers? Like, how are you into him? Or say, I should say Superman, since you gave us an example. Like, where are you at mentally when you're doing these?
Well, I'll tell you, my first issue of Aquaman, if I could find it, had one of the Green Lanterns, had Kyle. And because this was before they got into the digital coloring, all the Green Lantern effects had to be inked on vellum. So I inked the page except for the Green Lantern effects, and then on a sheet of vellum, I'll have to ink the Green Lantern effects. It was a royal pain in the ass. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Yeah, check this out. So imagine.
Oh my goodness.
Oh Lord,
Shit.
that
And the
is
vellum would get crinkly as I would ink on it, but
Oh,
I only had to do it for one issue before technology advanced enough where I didn't have to worry about that.
man. Something about that looks better and richer though. It's like analog to digital or something.
Yeah, yeah. It's like we were talking about, how technology has definitely changed everything, and it's definitely changed the comic industry. It's changed my job. Um, some things for the better, some things for the worse. It's definitely the sort of like factory mentality of putting together a company where you have a writer, penciler, inker, colorist, letter, blah blah blah. Now it's like you get a penciler, and the penciler is inking himself and maybe even coloring himself, and so like inking is less in demand, but I still love the craft of it, and
Wow.
I have people coming to me, kids coming to me all the time, like online and in person and whatnot. Like, how do you do this? We show me,
Okay.
how to improve and blah blah blah. And it's like
That's cool.
I'm always willing to give advice. Anything I know, pass it on to the next generation. I mean, that's part of keeping it alive, and I hope it never goes away. Much like comics, I hope it never goes away.
My dad just made 80 yesterday, and he still was talking about comic books. He was talking about his favorite ones. Well, Superman was his, by the way. But he actually, you keep forgetting your parents turn you on and everything. It's like I thought I knew, like he's the one, So, but like I was thinking, I didn't want to ask you guys about AI and all that because I figured you had already talked about it by this time. But I know, you can use the agent for some things, but um, there's got to be an element where you can use that in a way, like they use stuff from you, like Suno. You describe it, so you're an artist. But at the same time, I've made stuff that I feel it's made with AI. Then they'll even ask me, do I want an agent on my work to help me further? I'm like, no, no, no. I made this so I can use it like a tool. I don't want any more help from agents. I already got help from you, but like I had a drum machine, as I was telling my comrades before, and like I bought this expensive equipment before that had cords and everything, and now it's obsolete. But I still go back and use it because it has a certain dexterity, but I don't know, and the machine that I'm using, I made it with AI and it's cool. So, but it's a tool that I don't have to go further with AI on it though. I could still do my creative thing and stay with it there. Maybe you can make some other artistic tool that encompasses that, but still uses, your power, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't touch it. I use it like Google. Like I look things up.
Okay.
With AI,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's about as far as I've gone. Because like when you involve artwork, you're actually stealing from every artist that's ever done anything. So I don't get into that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a part of that.
I feel that.
Um,
I feel that. I
yeah, yeah.
understand.
Um, but yeah, I mean, like, there are AI tools out there. I'm not totally aware of it. I'm traditional artist doing my own thing, you know,
Yeah,
spending
I don't
most of
want
my
to
time.
make anything obsolete. I like a person
Yeah,
like you, what you do, I want to preserve that, like
yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
yeah, absolutely. Like, um, I mean,
Peter,
I grew up with comics and for that matter, like, like I told the other guys before, like, my father used to bring home a bunch of newspapers like every day. We were, me and my brothers were into the comic strips, but also like back then they had ads with drawings, fashion ads. Like there was one artist doing suits and dresses, pencil art. It was freaking fantastic. And I wish I would have known the artist's name. I would still be following him. But yeah, like I I want to preserve what I grew up loving. Um, you, you know, it's just like everything's changing and everything's changing so fast. Um, you don't want to lose what's great from the previous generation. Um, like you said, like it was my father that took me and my brother to our first couple of comic conventions and really got us into comics.
Wow, okay.
hey,
Yeah.
hey, Peter, are there some comic book creators who are actually using AI to make comics?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Okay,
Unfortunately.
yeah, I thought
Yeah.
so.
I I I've seen, like titles to articles or whatever. It's like I don't know these people. They can do what they want, whatever, but like that's not the way to go in my opinion. It's
Yeah.
like you're stepping on the foot of everybody. Like, it's like supposedly people that were pro comics and pro creators are now using AI to make comics, and it's like, well, you're just not using people to make your comics. So how is that good for creators?
Right, right. I used to have a newsletter called the People's Comic Book Newsletter. And all these aspiring writers and artists used to submit their artwork or their stories to my newsletter. And we would do interviews and also do comic book reviews. And some of one of my biggest interviews that I ever did was with William Shatner because he had a comic book line called Tech Comics.
I remember.
And he was promoting that. And so I contacted William. I said, hey, I would love to interview you and get the word out about your comic book. He goes, yeah, let's do it. I was shocked. William Shatner.
What one of I did a book probably in the 90s, just a black and white independent book called Velvet. The writer on that was the ghostwriter on William Shatner's tech books.
Yeah.
Damn, that's great. That's ironic.
Yeah.
Damn.
And in fact, the well, sort of the second comic I worked on, but the first comic that job gig that I ever got was for a company called Personality Comics, and they released like celebrity comics. Like, so they released the cast of Star Trek, but they had the individual people, and I got the Forrest Kelly comic to ink.
Oh, wow. Well,
Yeah.
even Nimoy had his own line of comic books for a while. I tried to interview him, and he never responded, but William Shatner responded.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, like plenty of, like plenty of people in Hollywood love comics. And, there's even like, Keanu Reeves co-writes his own comics, and, it's like,
Wow. I didn't know that.
Samuel L. Jackson collects comic books.
yeah.
Well, he started some Marvel stuff too, so I guess he probably really likes it. I guess. What do you think of Shazam, Peter?
Well, yeah.
Shazam? I like Shazam.
Shazam.
Yeah.
Yes, huh?
I like him.
Like I mean, he's. I mean, if you like Superman, when I was little, I had the dolls, but like he's really not in the power level as Superman, though, right?
No, I mean, like, I like the character. He's not one of my favorites. Yeah. I would say he's kind of like Shazam, but Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel for Marvel Comics,
Right,
who
right,
had
yeah,
the gray hair.
yeah, the one that wasn't a girl, yeah.
Right. He had a sidekick, Rick Jones,
Yeah, Rick Jones.
and they would switch places, and it would be Rick Jones, and then
Good.
Rick would
Okay.
go into some Twilight Zone, whatever, and then Captain Marvel would come out and be hit a hero.
Right. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
something.
And Rick Jones was the sidekick to Hulk for a while.
Yeah, and also Captain America. I mean, Rick was everywhere. He was the teenage rock star buddy to everyone.
Right, but that's great. That reminds me, now that you said stuff like that, that reminds me of like when Wonder Man and the Visions had the same thing going on, and we had the Wanda's, they both love Wanda.
Yeah, because I don't know if they changed the storyline over the years or whatever, but somehow Vision and Wonder Man like had the same circuitry or
Yeah,
like
Othon did that, right?
or something. Yeah, I forget exactly how it went down, but like they were connected, and then yeah, of course they had the same love interest because they were kind of the same person. But that's those were great comics. Like, you don't get writing like that from the big two nowadays. It's all just the, whatever they could do to sell a book, but they don't care. They don't care about what they wrote like 6 months ago. Like, it's like they're just turning out books.
They don't care about 6 months ago, huh? That's crazy.
Yeah, everything. When I was growing up in like the 70s and 80s, continuity was king. And like if something happened in one book, it mattered in another, and in all of them, like
I see what you mean. I see what
they
you're
were
saying.
all tightly knit books and storylines, and there weren't 1,000 Spider-Mans, there weren't 1,000, Batmans, there were, it's like
Yeah.
But the late '80s, they started to separate. I noticed with Johnny Blaze and Ghost Rider, they had two separate books going at the same time. That almost two completely different storylines in different time periods, and the same thing with Wolverine, where Wolverine's in the Old West, you know, because he's, you know, immortal and he's 100. And nobody knows how old he is, and he's walking around the Old West like he's Kwai Chang King or something. And then also, you know, in Cuba with Sabretooth, you know, and in the 1960s, you know, in a whole
Yeah.
nother. And then he's getting, you know, the Shiva series with those tendrils coming out of him. And don't get me wrong, I bought all of them because I hug him. But yeah, it was crazy that you could literally go into a comic book store at that time period and find all three of those books at the same time period on that shelf. As far as the continuity thing goes,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, you know, things they try things, and like there was always an alternate reality within both, you know, companies. Like, you know, there was like I showed off the Spider-Man 2099. It was the 2099. There was the new, what was it? The new wave, new something line for a while at Marvel. The Ultimates, the, you know, like there's
Oh
always
yeah.
where they get the heroes, but it's an alternate version of the heroes, and they could do
Yeah.
anything with them. You know, DC is doing that and very popular now with the Absolute. You know, Absolute Batman, Absolute Catwoman, whatever. You know, like
Wow.
it's just recreating the heroes in a different way to sell to the next generation or whatever. But you know, like 3 years, 5 years from now, it'll be dead and there'll be something else.
Hey,
Did you like the What If?
uh,
I
some
mean,
of
the
them,
old one.
some of them, some of them. Because you know, in the big scheme of things, those storylines didn't matter. So
Okay, I see what you mean.
it had to be told incredibly well, and it had to have incredible artwork. I'm always about artwork first. And my favorite what if was what if Tony Stark made armor for the Avengers. So everybody had their own armor, and it was like drawn really well. It was kick ass.
Yeah, man. I didn't.
Peter.
that was a good one. I just forgot. Sorry about that, Paul.
Oh no, it's okay. We have 4 minutes.
Okay.
Peter, how can people reach you? Probably hire you for commission on artwork, whatever.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. I joined not too long ago. I'm on YouTube. I've been streaming and putting videos up. Type in my name, you'll find it. You know, I have a LinkedIn/Peter Palmiotti, you know, all my links there. Yeah, hit me up anywhere. I'll do anything for you.
well, yeah, airbrush my minivan make it look like a '70s van.
There you go. I'll paint the side of you.
Awesome.
That sounds cool.
This interview will probably be published in about a week, and I'll notify you, and I'll send you the link and everything else. You're a fantastic person to interview. Yeah, and it was just you brought back so many memories of comic books. I mean, God.
Oh, yeah, I was only here a little while, and I got that. Paul, you're gonna do comics now. Now you're back to comics now for sure.
Yeah. Right. Screw the podcast, screw the paranormal investigating. I'm back into comics.
Man, I can't draw. I never could draw, so I had comics. I mean, I tried to draw the muscle figures for a little while. Like, I could draw the Vision pretty good, but that was it.
Vision.
That was one of my favorite.
Yeah.
I like Black Bolt too, but he didn't have many powers. But I kind of like Black Bolt.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, yeah, Black Bolt. Yeah. Or Medusa. Remember Medusa with her long hair?
Oh, yeah.
The whole Inhumans. Yeah.
Yeah, the Inhumans. Yeah.
Are you familiar with Marvel Universe?
Oh, yeah. He worked for Marvel.
Yeah.
I was gonna say they had one character in there, which I don't know if it was a membrane, it was Orca or Tuma, that lived underwater, and his bench press was 30,000 tons when everybody else's was 100 tons. Like the Hulk had the X Factor, which is 100 plus. Thor might add 100. Some other people had 90, but I'm like wondering, was that a misprint? Because I thought, well, maybe because he lives underwater and it's dense, you know, and it's hard, the pressure. But
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know statistics, but um, maybe, perhaps, it could have been accurate. Like they used to release the Marvel Universe books with all the stats and whatnot.
Right.
You could probably find those online, is a guess, and look it up.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah. I forgot. I sure can look that up. That was one. Yeah, it was. I can't look that up. I was like, is that a misprint? But I thought because he was underwater. But what's your favorite all-time Marvel character before we go?
Iron Man, which I got to work on.
Wow.
Yeah. I was working on a double page spread of Iron Man at 3 o'clock in the morning, inking a double page spread that was in the armory that had 30 different suits. And on the radio came, "I am Iron Man."
Wow.
That is cool. That is awesome.
Synchronicity.
So
Yeah,
You
man.
know,
I ain't gonna up on.
these superhero movies, I mean, there are so many kids out there in different states that actually become real life superheroes. Just like Phoenix Jones over in Seattle, Washington. And he wears a costume, he breaks up fights, he walks, he walks out. Yeah, they're even talking about making a movie on Phoenix Jones.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the movies. Movies are fun.
Oh yeah. Movies are fun. Yeah. And we got about 20 seconds, guys. So yeah.
Thank you, Peter.
We got to get Peter back on, right?
Take your time.
Thank you guys for having me. This is fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's top rate. That's good work, man.
Thanks.
Well, here's the countdown.
Close like that.
5, 4, 3,
Well,
Yeah, it's so important. I agree. It's so important to train a dog. And some people adopt a dog just because they're cute, and then they don't give the dog any training, and then they're angry because the dog isn't trained.
right.
Well,
Yep.
we all have a responsibility to these animals to treat them humanely and teach them. They're just like children. If you don't send your kid to school, your kid is not going to learn. Same thing
Right.
with a pet. So a pet is a big responsibility. It's like adopting a human.
And when I hear people say, "Oh, every child should have a pet. Every child should have a dog," I'm thinking, no, not if they're not they've got to be old enough. They've got to be watched by the parents and taught, like we just talked about, how to properly care for. I mean, you see children pick up cats or dogs improperly. I mean, they're just you have to be on them all the time to teach them how to properly maintain and take care of that pet. And sometimes the parents are so gross that they don't know what they're doing either. So I say, do not randomly